Good afternoon slash morning, everybody. We have some new data mine information that came down, and I tweeted out yesterday that I was going to try and cover it in a slightly different manner than I've done before. So what I wanted to focus on today was talking about should you roll on this banner. And so that's probably why it's titled the way that it is, and that's why we're going to go over the way that we are. If you're looking for a specific unit, because we're going to cover all the stats and skills, including Titania at the very end, I'll have either in the comments or the top pinned comment, I'm going to go ahead and put a timestamp in for everything. So if you want to skip to a specific unit, you can go ahead and check that out. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be looking over the 4 banner units. That's Greil, Soren, Mist, and Ike, and then giving 3 comparative units that we already have in game that might function similarly, have similar stat line, things like that. And then obviously my free-to-play comparison series is going live for Titania tomorrow, probably, maybe the day after. Kind of depends, but we will briefly go over her stats and skills as well. Because she has a link skill at 4-star, which is bananas. So obviously, spoilers are definitely incoming, and special shout out to the data miners over at Game Press, because this is where I got a lot of the information from. I will also include a link in the description of the full data mine if you want to check that out as well. Alright, so spoilers incoming in 3, 2, 1. So you can see that Soren is a cavalry blue tome unit. He has HP of 37, attack of 35, speed of 33, defense of 14, and res of 25. It's also worth noting he comes with Blooms, which for him and literally every other unit in this banner, including Titania, they get if unit is adjacent to an ally, grants attack, speed, defense, res plus 3 during combat. So those, I probably won't rattle those off for every weapon, just because it's a little bit redundant. He's also got rally attack speed plus, attack res bond 3, speed feint 3, and res opening 3, which is the new skill. So you can see from his stats there, he's reasonably fast. For a tome unit, I think he's probably mid-tier speed. For armored, he's definitely fast, although we'll get to that in a little bit. But he's a little bit tankier on the res side, not so much the defense. You can see he's probably, for me, most comparable to Spring Katria. She has a BST of 144. La Rochelle is also pretty similar, although she's a little bit more of a res tank with a little less speed. And, you know, she's BST 145. And then, of course, we also have, let's not forget, possibly still one of the best blue tomes in the game, Reinhardt. Original Reinhardt, still kicking, man. He's obviously a little bit slower, but he is tankier. You can see they both have the same res stat. And again, his BST is 145 as well. So overall, these 3 units on the left function pretty similarly. All save for maybe Reinhardt. Reinhardt's really just kind of about charging up his special most of the time and firing that off. Because again, he's not likely to double. Units like Katria, even La Rochelle to an extent, and Soren, typically you might be able to double with the right investment. And yeah, but with the skill set Soren has, he is kind of more apt to double, just because, you know, speed feint is there. But he's also got the attack bond, which, you know, can nuke, so he doesn't necessarily need the extra speed. So if you're thinking about rolling on Soren, this one kind of for me comes down to preference. If you're a fan of Soren doesn't get a whole lot of love in Heroes. This might be the unit to go for. Again, these are pretty similar. There's another unit, Olwen, the original Olwen, I think. Let me check my notes. Yes. Olwen, and then we've also got Ursula, who is a free-to-play unit. It's worth noting those are also around. They're a little bit weaker, and they're I think Olin in general is a little more tankier and a little bit slower, so she didn't quite compare with the stat line as well. Maybe better than Reinhardt, but I wanted to put Reinhardt in there just because he's so popular, and honestly a pretty good blue tome choice for the most part. But then again, you know, with enough investment, you can always bump up Ursula. It would take a little bit because she's a little, kind of relatively a little bit weak. She doesn't really hit very hard, so you know it would take a lot of investment. If you don't have these units, if you don't have any of these 3 to 5 units that I just mentioned, and you want to, you know, get a kit-ready blue tome cav unit, I would recommend pulling on Soren. He's in a pretty limited field category, and his kit is pretty good. So for what that's worth, Soren might be worth rolling on. I give him probably a 3 out of 5. So now next up we have Mist. Mist is a green tome cavalry unit, and I know a lot of people are pretty psyched to get her as an alt. She has HP of 36, attack of 34, speed of 34, defense of 17, and res of 23. So relatively speaking, semi-similar to the stat spread that Soren has. You can see there, she's a little bit faster, just a smidgen, literally 1 point. She also comes with Gronblooms, which is the green tome version of every weapon on this banner. Rally Defense Res Plus. She's got Swift Sparrow, because why the heck not? Res Feint 3, which is a new skill, and Green Tome Valor, which I believe you guys in the comments of the reaction video let me know that the only other unit we have for that was Summer Elise, I think, who is now coming up on 3 years old, I think, this summer. So Mist has kind of a slightly broader pool, I would say, compared to Soren and some of the other ones. The last two are really going to be big comparisons. Gunthra, obviously, green tome cav unit, super useful. Speed and attack are relatively similar. Same kind of function with defense and res. She is tankier though, so she doesn't hit as hard or as fast necessarily, but she is a little bit tankier, and you're just kind of splitting hairs regardless with the stats. You know, Gunther comes in at 145 BST, so still pretty good. Lilina, who Mist is kind of parroting this time around. Again, pretty similar. Mist is a little bit faster, not as tanky. So that's kind of the trend. Mist tends to be a little bit faster than these units, and she's not as tanky. So if you want a slightly faster, harder hitting green tone cav, Mist, that's kind of where she separates from these. And then there was also the Olin alt. The World of Thracia, I think, is the alt name. I didn't include her just because she was a little bit slower, and we've kind of already have some slower units. It was between her or Cecilia to really compare, and ultimately Cecilia is just way more available, so I figured from a free-to-play standpoint it would make more sense for me to compare Cecilia down here. Again, very close, 144 BST, attack at 32, so a little bit weaker, speed at 25, so considerably slower, and then defense and res at 22 and 29 respectively, so quite a bit tankier. Same HP though, so quite a bit tankier, doesn't hit as hard, pretty similar though, splitting hairs, and speed, you know, considerably slower. But again, Mist is one of the faster green tome calves in the game. So if not the fastest, actually, she might be the fastest because there's only like four or five, somewhere around there. So again, this one for me kind of comes down to preference. If you like Mist, if you're a fan of Tellius like me in general, if you're not afraid of getting pity broken by a Greil, who we're going to talk about here in just a second, Mist might be the gal for you. Who really knows? Again, I would give Mist probably a 3 out of 5 in terms of usability, what's already here, what's comparable. You know, it's tough when you're going up against, you know, a legendary hero who's got blessing buffs and all this other nonsense. But again, you know, she is a good unit. Her art looks really good. She is faster, so that's kind of a plus. And she comes with Sparrow, so she's going to be even faster. So that's just kind of something to consider, I guess, when you're thinking about rolling on Mist. Again, 3 out of 5 for me. Now we are moving on to Greil. Greil is an armored axe unit. And oh my god, do we have a lot of those. So he's got HP of 47, attack of 41, which is the highest in the game. Attaboy. Speed of 18, defense of 38, and res of 30. So that's pretty notable. He is very, very tanky when it comes to res. He's also got the Faithful Axe, which again, axe version of everything on this banner. He comes with Ether, of course. Fury 4, which is a new skill, as well as a new tier 4 skill, which deals 8 damage, but also grants attack speed, defense, res 4. So I feel like that's relatively pretty balanced, ultimately. It's not going to pair well with things like Weary Fighter, for example, which is what he has in the B slot. And then Armor March in the C skill. So, stat-wise, we didn't talk about this. There are a lot of green armored units in general. You know, there's Fallen Robin, there's Halloween Kagero. Halloween Henry is also another option. There are many, many, many armor green axe units that I did not list. For example, Hector, Love Abounds Hector, Winter Crom, Amelia, who just got a weapon refined, Winter Lissa, Halloween Dorcas, and Sheena, who is like the most free-to-play green axe of all time. I tend to get her a lot in banners. Maybe you don't. I do. I have tons. I have like literally 40 Sheenas in my barracks. So I kind of narrowed it down power-wise, right? Because when you're going with Greil, you're going with the power. And ultimately, what that meant for me was Greil is super strong. He's not very fast, and he can tank lots and lots of hits. Fair. It's worth noting, he is up against probably the 3 better axe armor units that I can at least think of. Surtur. Surtur is here. Surtur has Blanker skills. He's got slightly higher defense, slightly higher res, a little bit slower speed just by 1 point. You know, 2 points difference in attack. Not a big difference there. And he's got 3 points higher HP at 50. BST 179 overall. Whoa. Brave Ephraim, who may have in fact been your free unit that you could have gotten. Again, HP, very similar. Attack, pretty darn close, only off by 3. Speed, considerably faster. 27 to 18 is a big difference, especially when you're an armor unit. Defense of 37. So again, splitting hairs, and res of 26, which is a little bit lower, but 4 points isn't that bad. And then once you know, buff up with ward skills and things like that, you're probably going to be okay. So Brave Ephraim is considerably close to Greil, like considerably close. Obviously, the weapons and kits are not the same, so you take what you get with that. And then we have Legendary Hector, who's been around the block a couple times now. He has HP 47, same. Attack 40, -1. Speed 23, +5. Defense of 38, same. Res 26, -4. So, again, these guys, Ephraim and Hector, are pretty similar. And this, again, is not counting any of the other axe units that could have been considered for the 3, but I don't have enough space on my screen, so this is what we got to deal with. Greil is honestly, like, as hyped as I am for Greil, he's probably the most replaceable unit on this banner just because of the availability of, you know, axe armor units. And the stat lines are all pretty similar. Again, kits are going to be very different, but all of these axe units come with different skills that, you know, each one has kind of a unique skill to them, so their kits are going to be different anyway. Even with Fury 4, I feel like Greil is kind of just, you know, he's there. So I would say, if you want Greil, which this might be the only time we really get a Greil, at least in the foreseeable future, I would say pull. But he's probably like a 2. He's probably like a 2 out of 5, honestly. He's pretty easily replaceable. Again, just looking at stats and things like that. But if he's a favorite of yours, go for it. Again, he's probably going to get the Charlotte treatment. Charlotte's been in her wedding dress for like 2 years now. Greil might be holding those flowers for another 6 years before we see another one. So it might be worth pulling on Greil. Again, the downside though is you're up with Mist, so we've got 2 on both. If you want to pull for either Mist or Greil, obviously your chances are a lot better. If you're just happy getting one or the other, definitely pull. But in terms of usability and availability that we already have for this specific kind of movement, weapon type, unit, it's slightly disappointing, but it's worth noting that he is like a monster. It's not Greil's fault that he's just in a very maximized pool, right? He is, you know, he's tied with Winter Ephraim for the highest base attack. I mean, that's insane. So for what that's worth, he's going to hit like an absolute truck. Again, the A and B skills just don't really mesh well, so you're probably going to have to invest a little bit in his kit. But Armor March is always useful, so it's never a bad idea to have that as the C. So, again, pretty replaceable for the most part, but also unique in the sense it's Greil. All right, are we ready? Are we ready? This pool isn't nearly as overflowing as Grail's, but Ike's is still pretty competitive, honestly. So Ike is a sword armor unit. He's got HP of 45, attack of 37, speed of 38, defense of 35, and res of 19. He's also got a kit of Heart's Blade, just a flowery sword, nothing to see here. Ether, Radiant Ether specifically, so the special that was unique to Legendary Ike, now coming on Path of Radiance Ike, which makes you wonder which came first. Canonically, probably this one. Distant Counter for the A slot. Big mood. Special Fighter 3 and Even Speed Wave 3. So even though he doesn't have any new skills, nothing new on Ike here, I would genuinely say that Ike has the best kit and is probably the best unit in this banner overall. Now, let me tell you why. Oh boy. Alright, so Ike comes in the like of the 3 that we have here, but also notable include units like Zephiel, Arden. There's some other red armor units like Halloween Myrrh and Winter Tharja. Ike here is crazy fast and crazy strong. 38 speed. What kind of armor is this boy wearing? For real. That is insane. Even like, you know, somebody like Black Knight, who is considered a very fast armor unit, just blown out the water by Ike's speed right here. So Zelgius, obviously, very strong unit, kind of power crept Black Knight for a little while, and now that we have Grails, I feel like Black Knight you can plus 10 pretty easily, so he's kind of up there now too. BST 174, you know, HP is very similar, attack's very similar, speed is quite a bit faster, especially in the world of armors. Defense, off by 3, res, off by 2. So again, Ike's not really meant to be super tanky, but he does have a considerable defense. Um, 35 defense is really, still like really strong. And you know, the weapons, along with every other weapon in this banner, gives +3 to everything during combat, if the unit is adjacent to an ally. So I would genuinely say that Ike kind of beats out Zelgius for the most part, because in the War of Armors, Ike is going to hit reasonably as hard, but way faster. So he's likely to double. Ike is likely to double. I'm going to repeat that. A sword armor unit is likely to double most enemies. That is insane. What is happening right now? And then you get the special cooldown with Radiant Ether. It's Ike's insane. Black Knight, 48 HP. You know, a little bit higher. Attack of 34, a little bit lower. Speed of 34, a little bit lower. Defense of 35, samesies. Res off by 1. Obviously, it's a lot easier to +10 a Black Knight, because Grails exist. So ultimately, you know, if you're looking for someone to kind of fit the mood of Ike, but you want to kind of bump him to the next level with a +10 merge, Black Knight definitely your go-to. 100%. Would not recommend any other red sword armor to +10. Definitely go Black Knight. That said, if you don't want to spend Grails, Drog is also a pretty reasonable contender here. HP 50, so he's a little bit tankier. Attack is 30, doesn't hit as hard. Speed of 32. Again, nothing's really going to compare with Ike's speed when it comes to red armor units. Defense of 39, so quite a bit tankier. And then res of 18, which is surprisingly lower than Ike's. So, for what that's worth, Drog is in at 3 and 4 star, so he is relatively easy to pick up on the frequent, and he's a pretty reliable, relatively free-to-play unit. But again, if you're going to +10 a red sword armor unit, go with Black Knight, man. Use the Grails, do the Grail thing. If you don't have the Grails and you've already used them on a great free-to-play like Aversa or somebody else, you know, Drog is definitely the play. Again, they have the same BST, the stats spread's a little bit different. The kit is also a big difference as well. I know that Black Knight and Zelgius kind of have a unique build. Drog is just there doing his best kit-wise. But Ike, I mean, he's packing even Speed Wave on top of that. Like, that is insane. He's going to be faster every other turn. Every other turn, alright? Not counting if he's adjacent to a foe or anything. He is going to be hitting 44 speed. A red armor unit. Fam, this is bonkers. Ike is so good. Ike wins the banner hands down. But if you don't want to pull for Ike, if you want to save your orbs, if you want something comparable, anybody on the left-hand side would be, you know, reasonably strong. And 2 of them you can +10 pretty darn easy. Ike, for the most part, gets a 5 out of 5 for me. I am not impartial. Ike is definitely my favorite unit on this banner. But I mean, stat-wise, uniqueness-wise, skill kit-wise, he is just bonkers. So I would absolutely give a 5 out of 5 for GD Ike, or Grail's Devoted Ike. I just realized how that sounded. And finally, the blessed smile that we don't deserve, but we're giving anyway, Titania. Titania, the Warm Knight, is the free-to-play unit on this Tempest Trials that's accompanying the banner very, very soon. She is a Red Tome Cavalry unit, and I will be doing a deep dive on her probably Friday or Saturday. Probably Friday for the most part. Since her art's been revealed, I can use it, so that's pretty handy. I don't have to worry about thumbnail spoilers or anything. She's very unique in the sense that we haven't really had a Red Tome Cav unit that's free to play. Not one that's been given to us anyway. She's got HP of 35, attack of 30, speed of 33, defense of 17, and res of 30. And again, I'll be doing a much deeper dive on her in a bit. So be sure to come back to the channel either tomorrow or the day after. She also comes with Triangle Adept and Attack Res Link. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, they probably put Triangle Adept at 4-star. Nope. She has Attack Res Link at 4-star. Triangle Adept is at 5-star. Oh, fun fact. So that's cool. Yeah, Attack Res Link at 4-star makes her a very valuable fodder unit. But how? I mean, look at her. How could you just fodder her off? Savage. Titania, honestly, I'm excited about Ike. Don't get me wrong. I'm super pumped about Ike. Titania is free, so I'm getting her anyway. I don't have to spend orbs. I am pretty pumped about Titania. Just because, again, she is a unique unit. She has pretty respectable stats for the most part. And her art is really pretty. That's all I'm really looking for in a free-to-play unit. Decent stats, uniqueness, good art. Ticks every box. So again, I will be doing a deep dive on Titania and other comparable free-to-play units depending on what we have in the game and what's available to us. And it will help decide if you should try and plus 10 her when she comes around for Grails and whatnot. So look out for that probably tomorrow for the most part. But that's it for right now. Thank you for hanging out during this deep dive. I appreciate that if you made it all the way through, or if you just skipped around because of timestamps. I appreciate it. Let me know in the comments who you are most excited for on this banner. And most importantly, are you going to roll on this banner if you haven't already said? And if you have, tell me again, because I want to know. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you next time.